Last night, the Royal Media Services conducted what can arguably be submitted as the biggest public participation exercise on the Finance Bill 2024. In media parlance, we had a broadcast version of Stop Press. 3 television stations, 2 radio stations, and our digital platform dedicated more than 5.5 hours to an extensive discussion on the Finance Bill 2024.
Now, public participation is a constitutional requirement in the making of decisions of governance in Kenya. And the Finance Bill 2024 has generated just as much, if not more than the heat that Finance Act 2023 generated, primarily for a shared reason: the extraordinary hiking of tax measures. So last night, we brought on board just about every sector that is a direct stakeholder in the outcome of the Finance Bill 2024.
Just to give you a recap of the structure of that conversation, we deployed 5 live television studios. The first studio hosted Mwananchi. This is the man on the street, and we literally had 2 of them. One from Bunge la Mwananchi and another from the Boda Boda Association. We had a studio for taxpayers, and this was a broad representation of sector leaders from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers to bankers and to insurers, among others. Indeed, that was a town hall. Then we had tax experts to shed light in the dark areas, and our 2 last studios were related. One was for the political opposition, and the other for government.
First, we sincerely thank all our viewers, listeners, and also readers across our platforms who not only followed the conversation but also contributed immensely to the discourse on the Finance Bill 2024. In small ways, we got everyone to the same meeting, and this could not have happened at a more critical time, considering that the National Budget Statement is due for presentation on Thursday next week, and the Finance Bill 2024 is actually supposed to be the mechanism that will enable collection of revenues that would partly fund the budget of 2024-2025.
And we acknowledge that the public participation is still open. In fact, the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly has scheduled a whole day's public hearing at the KICC on Monday next week. And Kenyans have not tired to express themselves on what they think of the tax proposals. We, however, take issue with some of the sentiments that have been coming from different leaders, especially those in government. The general sentiment that is similar to that of a shakedown, a raid of our pockets, a smash and grab. We, the taxpayers, should simply not ask any questions. Shut up, pay first, ask questions later.
Tax has to be paid for us to be reliant, to be self-reliant. We cannot. I have gone out of Kenya begging for food, and as a man, that is not something I want myself to get myself into. Because when I go begging in Italy, India for rice and other things, and I'm told I'm sorry, we cannot give you because our country requires rice, and since we do not have enough, you go back home. And when you go back home, there is nothing you are taking home. The people become very helpless. So please, just spare me that shame. Give us money. Let us develop the rice schemes in Pakera, in Mbura, and other areas. Let us get more money to get more fertilizer, to give to our farmers a subsidy, for us to produce more.
Now, while the CS may be right on the essence of self-reliance, it is not so in his language. To demand for tax payment to save him from shame due to his ethnic roots comes off as failing to appreciate the reality that Kenyans are in today. And this tendency appears to have extended to leaders of parliamentary committees, leaders whom, even though were appointed into those positions for coming from the majority side, or if you like, the government side, must remain true to their oath of office, which partly they source as saying, quote, "I will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of parliament, so help me God."
On the other option then, if we have to really get rid of it, would be to reduce the budget by 58 billion. Now the problem is nobody wants the budget to, okay, not this side, but the political side, including the one against it, don't want to reduce the budget.
In that clip, Chairman Kuria Kimani is explaining what ideally should be the work of the National Treasury. What's more, he's clearly taking a position at a public participation exercise that is meant to listen to the people. With that firm stance, one is left to wonder what the exercise is for, if their minds are already made up. And there is no denying that indeed there is need for more resources to finance the ever-expanding needs of the government and the people. But tonight we ask, at what cost? You see, the stakeholders on our big conversation here on Wednesday night walked the viewers into step-by-step analysis of what some of the tax proposals would mean for the cost of living, cost of doing business, and on a bigger scale, the impact on the economy.
But the discussion also, and maybe inadvertently, showcased a shocking, even numbing prospect that those widely assumed to be in the know may actually not be in the know. From the controversial Finance Act of 2023, the ever-contentious housing levy, and now the contested proposals of the Finance Act 2024, it was devastating to witness the number of times the dead end was hit.
You see, the Finance Bill 2024 and the Budget 2024-2025 are both products of the government. To be specific, the National Treasury. It's then handed over to the Parliamentary Committee of Budget and Appropriations and the Finance and Planning Committee. Those three institutions all failed to show up to the big conversation, despite some of them having confirmed earlier. For whatever reason, their actions last night amount to contempt of the people of Kenya.
Contemptuous because if the originator of such a serious set of policies and their proponents are not available to answer questions from Kenyans, both ordinary Kenyans and businesses that are busy generating incomes for the government to tax, what moral authority should those government representatives have in taking any action to further those proposals? Yet, if left unchanged, the proposals in the Finance Bill 2024 will have serious ramifications on businesses, livelihoods, and lives of many in this country.
Yet, here we are. In a week's time, the budget statement of 2024-2025 will be read. The National Treasury, through CS Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, will justify every expenditure and tax proposal. Shortly after, the National Assembly will be called to debate the Finance Bill. And that is where the people's representatives come in.
There's a general appreciation that a significant number of members of Parliament are not familiar with the budget and the Finance Bill. And many have been speaking and displaying their low or shallow understanding at various places. Yet some have made propositions to either scrap or reduce some of the tax proposals. That is all good. But it will amount to just talk if those legislators do not table proposals to amend the contentious clauses of the Finance Bill.
You know, history has taught us that the Finance and Planning Committee, rather than the people, carries immense influence in what eventually gets to the President for assenting. In a few days, they will retreat to write their report. Based on history, the National Treasury may be recalled by the committee to explain the implication of the proposals to amend, meaning the National Treasury ends up with a strong arm in what has been a robust public participation exercise. The Treasury will be available to the committee, but not to the people, as was exhibited by their glaring absence from the big conversation we convened here last night.
To the Member of Parliament, you sought to bear true faith and allegiance to the people, and your constituents included. The ball will soon be in your court. What shall you do with it? Will you serve the will of the people? And while at it, will you comprehend in good detail what's contained in the finance bill? We would offer some links to the big conversation to kickstart that journey of awareness.
Now, part of the discussion last night also painted an air of general low public faith in the contents of the Finance Bill 2024. A survey whose findings were released earlier today shows that Kenyans overwhelmingly oppose the new tax proposals, mostly on the grounds that the collections have between little or no impact on the economy. What members of Parliament will do with this information is entirely up to them. The memo, kicker, take and sense, all wrapped into one. The news gang is here.